Hello, programming engineers. Welcome back once more to this Drives course. We are going to analyze our connections, but we are going to do this with our physical motor. There are two types of connections, star connection and triangle connection. Now in this diagram, we have, for example, 400 volts between each phase in our star connection. In our triangle connection, we have 400 volts between each phase. Now, I was previously saying that it all depends on the manufacturer. But in reality, for most cases, the star connection is the one that works for 400 volt voltage for AC. Okay? And the triangle connection generally, and that is already trying to be standardized by the manufacturers. Triangle connection has, well, it needs to have enough feed for 200 volts at a little bit less than 400 volts. But it's going to depend on its manufacturer. So remember, star connection on the field is for voltage that could support 400 volts and up. And the triangle connection from 400 volts down. So generally used in the 120 volts for alternate current. So we should verify always with our manufacturer, because sometimes we could get one of those motor manufacturers where they changed its rules. And internally, they could have a different connection and we could get to burn out our motor. Okay, so we need to be very careful. So having said this, let's look into our very famous motor. And I'm powering on my camera so that we can all see. And here we go. So we have a pretty small motor. Okay, here we go. I'm adding it on this side. Now, what can we see here? We have our reducer box, which is good to assign better torque to our application. Now it's going to decrease our speed, and we're going to look into this because we are going to focus on reducers. But our motor in reality is this. This is our motor. This with this motor and reducer. It's a motor reducer. Okay? If we were to add our motor only, then in this case, we wouldn't have enough torque. However, we would get greater speed. Okay, so these are our data plate. This is our data plate. And we're going to look into this when we're configuring our drives. Now, this is what we're really interested in. It's Vorness terminal. We have here 4 volts. And I already eliminated it, removed this to make this quicker. So let me try to focus this. And we have here we go. We have here, generally when we turn our plate or our lid, we have our connections, which, as I said, we need to ensure. So it says here our delta connection. What type of voltage are we talking about? It can take up to 200 volts generally. And our star connection, how much does it take from 400 and up? 400 volts and up. And here it's stating how the plates should be located to get that type of voltage. Okay, so it's pretty easy. Now here, we had already connected it and we had already used this motor for any one of our projects. Now, what type of connection is this? we need to analyze this. What type of connection is this? Okay, again, we have our borners here, our borns, and what are we going to configure this for? Okay, so we're going to configure this in its time, or when we use this, we configured it for 240 volts. And as we can see here on our screen in our computer, in the monitor, you can see the Vorn's terminals. So this is a connection box. So this is where we run all connections. Okay? Now further down so that we can configure our drives, I'm going to send it to a triangle configuration or a delta configuration. So therefore, I need to place the plates. First, I need to remove this. So I'm going to remove it by hand. Okay. I'm going to try to focus and get it as close as possible. So it has some screws here, some washers. So I need to remove these together, as well as these. I'm kind of struggling a little bit. It's a bit tighter than I would have liked. This one is easily removed. So once I removed the bolts, the nuts, and the washers, okay, let me see here. These small plates are the ones that we should be switching out to, so that we can comply with our triangle connection. And we'd have to place it like this and repeat so with the rest of them. This one I was unable to remove. I need a die. But further down, I'm going to remove this later, and we're going to start looking into the drive configuration, and you'll see that the plates are going to be vertical, which means this way, so that we can respect our delta connection. It needs to be like this on our left side. We have our triangle here, delta, star, delta, star. So we need to change this. And we're going to change with our motors. So with this, I hope this was all very clear, our practical part, our physical part, on how the motor connections work. Okay, so having said this, guys, let's move on to our next video, okay? Thank you very much.